everyone, so today I'm going to be teaching you how to cook barley jambalaya, but there's a little bit of a twist. Instead of using barley, I'm using quinoa because my family has a wheat intolerance and also suffers from celiac disease, so we can't eat barley because of cross-contamination and issues like that. So other grains you can use for this recipe include, brown rice, even white rice, quinoa. You can even use like a whole grain pasta. My cat is talking to us. If he starts to bother us too much, we'll just kick him out, but he can be a little sous chef. Anyways, so I'm going to be using quinoa, and I already have that prepped. And we're going to be using ground turkey today. And what's really nice about this recipe is that if you just want it to be like completely vegetarian, you don't have to use a meat, or you can use tofu, or you can even use beans, but or you can use a different type of meat. This is a very great meal to just kind of throw in whatever you think best fits your taste preference. So to start off, I'm going to heat a tablespoon of olive oil. You can also use canola oil, but I prefer olive oil. And we're just going to heat it on medium heat in a bigger pot. Just so, like so. And then we're going to start chopping our vegetables while that heats. Usually you have to start prepping your grain, in this case it would be quinoa, prior to doing this stuff, like chopping the vegetables, but since I already have it pre-made, you don't have to focus on that. Okay, so next we're going to prepare our chopped veggies. This is only a small amount of the vegetables because I want to be able to demonstrate how to correctly dice and chop each of these. I have all the rest of the vegetables already prepped and pre-cut in a bowl. So first thing we're going to do is, of course, wash our vegetables. You really only have to wash the pepper and the celery stalk in this case because the onion's already covered in the skin or the peel. So you don't really have to worry about that. Same as the garlic clove. So you just want to make sure you wash your vegetable for a good amount and then scrub it off. Gets off, whatever viruses, COVID maybe, and whatever bugs, dirt could have made its way onto the vegetables. So we're going to start with our bell pepper. And what's nice about this is you can choose what types of pepper you want. You could choose a green one. The green one's a little bit less sweet. The red offers more flavor. There's also yellow, orange, but I prefer the red, and so does my family. So what we're going to do is you're going to lay it on the stem side, pointing up, and you're going to cut like about half an inch away from the stem and the very end of the side. So you're going to cut here and point down your knife so that you don't hurt yourself. And just slice down like so. And then if you prefer to take that part out, you can do it. It's a little bit more bitter tasting, but it really doesn't matter. It's just personal preference. So I'm just gonna cut in slices first. Make sure your fingers are out of the way so you don't chop those. Nobody wants to go to the hospital right now. And then you can just turn it like this and easily dice pepper. And those are perfect because they'll get softened or softer as they cook, and they'll also probably get a little bit smaller. So next we're going to dice our onion. And this recipe also calls for 3 onions. So say you prefer maybe less onion, you could add in more celery, more peppers, more tomatoes. This recipe is very interchangeable with whatever fits your taste. So we like onions in this family. It adds really great flavor to this dish. So what you want to do with this, you want to keep the hairier end on, because that's what keeps the entire onion intact. But you're gonna cut off the stem. And I still have pepper on my knife. And you just want to peel your onion. So my eyes are starting to tear a little bit because onions. But to dice it, so you can easily do this. So you put it on the part we didn't cut off, and you just start cutting down, but not all the way, okay? That's important. And since it's getting a little bit closer to my fingers, I'm just gonna take the knife out carefully and switch to the other side. And then we're gonna do the same thing on like the other way. Almost looks like a blooming onion. So yeah, you just keep doing that, because then when you go to dice it, they're all even dices for the most part. And sometimes you get little stragglers. We can just dice those in a second. Then you turn it on your side and watch this. All the dice. Perfect. And then once it gets down to like the end part, you can take it and turn it like this and just cut around it. That way you're not wasting any of the parts. And there you go. So then if you have like parts like this, or say sometimes they're not all cut into the perfect dice, you can just do that yourself. Put them like that, then on their side. And then there you go. There's your diced onion. And then we can add this to the rest of our veggies. Okay, so next up is our clove of garlic. And this, I just want to point this out because I didn't really know this. A clove of garlic is just one of these. So don't put the entire thing of garlic in. That's too much. So anyways, you want to peel it it's just like an onion, just very small. And you peel the skin off, just like so. This is way easier than the onion because there's less. So yeah, once you have that peeled, take your knife and, okay, that was a fail. Take the end of it and there you go. And then you just dice. Kind of do it like, you don't have to be perfect about it, but try and get them really small. Just like that. And we're just gonna set that aside. I could probably chop those up a little bit smaller, so I might do that, but it's fine for now. Next, we're gonna do our celery stalk. And one thing for celery is you could have a recipe that only calls for 2 stalks, just like this one. But you have to buy celery by it's almost in bulk. So what's nice about this is you could use the celery for other dishes like stir fry or chicken noodle soup. So it'll last fairly a long time in the fridge. So then next, you want to make sure you wash your celery. I already did this. Sometimes there's dirt on it. And you want to take off, there's usually like a hard, there's like the end of the stem, which is like leafy, and then there's the bottom, which is like, it's not the bulb, I don't know what to call it, but I guess the stem. I'm gonna cut off a little bit more because it's just a little too tough there. And you're just gonna take it and kind of like a cucumber, but slice right down the middle. And don't really want to eat that, the stringy part. But you're just going to take it, cut in small pieces like so. And if those are still too big, you could even take them and cut them in half again. But it's really personal preference. Do it again. I love the flavor of celery. It's just such a fresh smell, fresh flavor, and it's great in this dish. You can even add more if you want, because this only calls for 2 of these. If you like more of a celery taste, you could add more. really it's all up to you and what the people in your family like to eat. That's the beauty of this recipe. So then after these are all chopped, as you can see over there, I have a big bowl full of all my vegetables. And I'm going to put those in the pot and have them cook for about 5 minutes or until they're soft and brown. And then we'll pick up with the recipe from there. So I just poured all the vegetables into the pot and I'm trying to coat them all in the olive oil. But since there's so many, I might have to add a little bit more. So it only calls for a tablespoon of olive oil, but I don't know, sometimes I always feel like we need a little bit more olive oil. And it cooked out a little bit before because I waited too long to add the vegetables. But probably after about 5 to 10 minutes, this should be good to go to add in our other ingredients. Okay, so now that these have gotten much softer and see how they've kind of went down a little bit as they've cooked, I'm going to add in my pre-cooked ground turkey. And since it's already cooked, you don't need to worry about it taking time to make sure it's fully cooked. So I'm just going to mix it around and make sure it's like fully incorporated into the mix. Can break up some bigger chunks. I just want to make sure it gets like warm. And I want to explain, a lot of the times, because this recipe calls for only like 4 ounces of ground turkey, a lot of the times it's cheaper to buy ground turkey in larger quantities. So my family usually gets ground turkey, I think usually 3-pound packages. So with this recipe, you could either use more ground turkey with this. Well, my family did in this situation. We made ground turkey and we just didn't season it, so we could use the turkey for other meals. So this is kind of perfect. That was like the perfect amount for this meal. But obviously, if you want more protein in this dish, or just to have more bulk to this dish, definitely add more protein to this. And then since we don't have to worry about the turkey being cooked through, since it already is, I'm going to go ahead and add in our diced tomatoes. And try to get diced tomatoes that have no salt added, because a lot of times in canned foods they add a lot more sodium. And usually what my family does, and I also just didn't add salt to our spices mix, even though it calls for it, because we like to salt things based on our own preference. And sometimes higher salt diets can lead to hypertension and other health issues. But I'm just going to go ahead and add those in there. And add the other can. And we're going to cook a little bit longer and let it, I think, simmer. Let me make sure. Yeah, bring it to a simmer. But I'm just going to make sure it's all incorporated. And get a nice mixture like this. And then once this is all like finished simmering, or once it is simmering, I'm gonna add in our quinoa and spices. So now I'm gonna add our spices in here. There's oregano, cayenne pepper, and black pepper. The one thing I want to note is that cayenne pepper is very spicy. So if some people in your family like spice and some don't, you can leave that out and have people do that in their own personal serving. You could do a little bit if you really like spice. Be careful, you could add even more. But I think the amount that the recipe calls for is just enough for me. And as for salt, like I said, that's a personal preference type of thing. So I'm just gonna let people do that to their own personal serving sizes. And now I'm just going to mix in the spices so that they're fully incorporated. And we're going to simmer this for 15 minutes and reduce the heat to a low simmer and cover. So, go ahead and take a look at this. This is what you should look after the first 15 minutes of simmering. And now we're gonna add in our quinoa that also has the bay leaves. It's kind of hard because now it's like been in the refrigerator for a little bit, but it's okay, it'll warm up. So yeah, we're just gonna dump this out. And then we're just gonna mix it up and have it simmer again for another 15 minutes, and then we'll be ready to eat it. Okay, so now this is our final product of the barley jambalaya, I guess quinoa jambalaya. One important thing to mention is remove the bay leaves after it's done cooking because those are choking hazards. And this is a great meal to meal prep, have leftovers of, heat up again. So I hope you enjoy it and try it. And thanks for watching.